Okay, we're going to follow with Berenice Celita, so we'll go straight over to Beren. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Esta tierra en manos míos, ni se vende ni se embarga, que afuera no van a entrar a nuestras tierras a explotar, que afuera no van a entrar a nuestras tierras a explotar.
Pueblo del puerto más importante de Colombia, sobre el Pacífico colombiano, el pueblo de Buenaventura se levantó por la barbarie imperialista que pretende controlar las riquezas de la región más importante y con más biodiversidad del mundo. Según estudios científicos, es la región con más biodiversidad sobre el planeta.
The images which you've just seen were taken 1 month ago when the people of the most important port in Colombia, Buenaventura, on the Pacific coast, they rose up and they took to the streets to protest against the imperialism which seeks to control the wealth which is contained and which enters and leaves their port, but also which is contained in their land, which is the land which according to studies is one of the most biodiverse areas on the whole of the planet.
Buenaventura vive la peor violencia de su historia. Buenaventura es en este momento protagonista de los crímenes más atroces que la humanidad conozca.
Buenaventura right now is living the worst violence which has been seen in its history and some of the worst violence that has been seen in the world at the moment. It is living many atrocities.
No es fácil decir que en Buenaventura hay desaparecidos, por lo menos 3 personas desaparecidas diariamente. No es fácil decir que hay casas donde a la gente la están picando.
It's not easy for me to say that right now in Buenaventura people are being disappeared. We think around 3 people every day are being forcibly disappeared. There are houses which they call chop-up houses which are being used to cut people up alive.
Y tampoco es fácil decir que el Estado colombiano quiere esconder esta realidad y decir que lo que pasa en Buenaventura es porque hay bandas criminales y porque hay un grupo de pistoleros que se están matando entre sí.
And it's also not easy to say that the Colombian state wants to hide this reality of what is happening in Buenaventura by saying that this is just a problem between different gangs that are going on, and it's just armed groups of men who want to kill each other.
Esto no es cierto.
That's not true.
Esto esconde la real situación de los intereses multinacionales que hay sobre el puerto en el que transcurre el 74% de las importaciones y de las exportaciones de productos producto de los 13 tratados de libre comercio que Colombia ha firmado con Canadá, Estados Unidos y Europa.
The truth about the situation which the Colombian state wants to hide lies in the interests of multinational companies and interests of foreign countries, and it lies in the fact that 70% of the imports and exports which come into and out of Colombia go through this port. And we're talking about a huge amount of trade going through, and that trade is also linked to the 13 free trade agreements which Colombia has signed with countries including Canada, the US and the European Union.
La guerra en Buenaventura se incrementó en el año 99 cuando iniciaron las obras de ampliación del puerto. un compromiso que el gobierno colombiano había hecho justamente para que se firmaran los tratados de libre comercio desde ese año.
The violence which we are currently seeing in Buenaventura started in 1999, and this happened as a result of a planned extension of the port in Buenaventura, which the Colombian government had to implement in order to try and get the free trade agreement signed with the United States and other countries in the first place.
Estados Unidos quiso confundir al mundo diciendo que no firmaba el Tratado de Libre Comercio porque en Colombia asesinaban sindicalistas. Y eso fue una gran mentira, porque no lo firmaron, porque no había la infraestructura necesaria para firmarlo.
The United States government tried for years to confuse the world by lying and saying that they were refusing to sign a free trade agreement with Colombia because of the amount of trade unionists who were being murdered and activists who were being murdered. This was a lie. What they really were not signing was because of the lack of infrastructure, and the infrastructure wasn't there for them to sign the free trade agreement.
Como antropóloga forense, acompañé a las comunidades desde el año 2000 hasta el 2003 a levantar sus muertos.
As a forensic anthropologist, between the year 2000 and 2003, I worked with the communities of Buenaventura to recover their dead.
Recogimos muertos desde toda la vía de Cali a Buenaventura, pasando por Cisneros, Lobo Guerrero, Triana, hasta llegar al puerto.
We picked up dead bodies all along the road from Cali, the nearest major city, all the way through the Pacific coast or up to Buenaventura on the coast. And we recovered dead bodies as a result of the violence there.
Hoy sabemos que el grupo G4S está encargado de la seguridad del puerto. Está firmando un contrato con el gobierno colombiano para que asuma esa seguridad del puerto. Y nos preguntamos qué intereses tienen también, además de los norteamericanos, los ingleses sobre el puerto.
Today we've heard about G4S, and we know that G4S has the security contract for the security in the port in Buenaventura. And so we are asking ourselves, what are the interests not only of the United States companies, but also what are the interests of the British companies and the British government there?
En el mes de diciembre tuvimos que acompañar a varias madres de niños que habían desaparecido y que luego se encontraron mutilados. La violencia no había llegado a esos extremos tan fuertes.
In December, we had to accompany the mothers of some children in Buenaventura who had disappeared and who we later found mutilated. And the violence in Colombia had not previously arrived to these levels of depravity.
Cuando Rafid esta mañana declamaba el poema de Palestina y de las masacres y luego hablaba nuestro compañero Celestín y luego hablaba nuestro otro compañero, me preguntaba si es que somos más, ¿por qué los que son menos pueden imponer su barbarie y nosotros guardamos silencio?
This morning, when Rafif read her poem about the massacres against the Palestinian people, and when I afterwards heard Celestine talking about Nigeria, and I heard Benny talking about West Papua, I was asking myself, why, if we are more, can those who are less continue to impose their barbarity on us?
El presidente de la República apenas se entera que en Buenaventura hay violencia hace una semana.
The president of Colombia just found out that there is violence in Buenaventura 1 week ago.
Tuvo que reconocerlo porque esa marcha que ustedes vieron hizo que mucha gente hablara de lo que estaba silenciado hace más de 15 años.
He had to recognize it because this march, which I showed a video of, forced many people in Colombia to speak about what had been going on for years in silence.
El ministro de la Defensa colombiano planteó que efectivamente sí existían esas casas de pique.
The Minister of Defense in Colombia was forced to finally recognize that these chop-up houses do exist to kill people in Buenaventura.
Pero el mundo tenía que esperar hasta que el presidente y el ministro de la Defensa colombianos hablara para creer, porque no le creyeron a las comunidades que llevan años enteros diciendo lo que allí está pasando.
But the world had to wait until the president and the Colombian Minister of Defense came out and said it, because they didn't believe the same communities who have been talking about it and suffering it for all these years, and nothing's being done.
En este momento estamos trabajando en una misión permanente por la vida.
At the moment, what we are working on is a permanent mission for life in Buenaventura.
Y la vida no es solo permanecer vivo. La vida no es simplemente que no nos disparen a la cabeza y nos maten.
Being alive and life isn't just being alive. It's not just that they don't shoot us in the head.
La vida es preservar nuestro territorio que nos pertenece. La vida es que nuestras comunidades negras puedan vivir en bajamar. La vida es que podamos disfrutar de nuestros recursos naturales. La vida es que las multinacionales no se sigan llevando lo que nos pertenece.
Life means to preserve our territories. It means to be able to retain and to be in our territories where we were born and which belong to us. It means being able to enjoy our natural resources and not allowing these multinational companies to come in and to exploit us and to cause this violence against us.
Hay un lugar sagrado donde sabemos que el capital nunca va a entrar, y ese lugar es justamente la cultura. Por eso la cultura de resistencia de los colombianos es tan grande. Yo decía esta mañana que llevábamos 521 años resistiendo, y no es un cliché, es una verdad de a puño.
But there is one place which is sacred, which they can't enter into, and where they can't get us. And that is where capital will never arrive. That is the culture. And when I talk about in Colombia, we have a culture of resistance which has lasted over 521 years. When I mentioned that this morning, I wasn't saying it as a cliché, it is true.
La cultura y lo que hoy pasó aquí con los jóvenes en el taller de la tarde le devuelven a uno la esperanza para decir que a pesar de la barbarie vamos a seguir resistiendo.
Culture. And when we talk about culture, what happened this afternoon here with the youth workshop, this is what gives us hope, and this is what allows us to believe that we can change the reality.
Y un mensaje para todos y cada uno de los hombres y mujeres que se levantan diariamente y que su voz la hacen escuchar para que haya justicia.
And it's a message to all of those who get up every day and who raise their voice against the misery and against the violence.
Hace tal vez 18 años o 15 acompañé a una comunidad en el sur de Bolívar a desenterrar algunos muertos que el paramilitarismo había dejado mutilados en una fosa común.
About 18 years ago, I accompanied some communities in the south of Bolivar department in Colombia to a mass grave to recover some of their loved ones who had been mutilated by paramilitaries.
Después de la exhumación, que nos tocó hacerla en compañía de las fuerzas militares y tal vez paramilitares que habían cometido la masacre, el padre de una de las víctimas me dijo lo siguiente.
After the exhumation of the bodies, which we had to do with the army alongside us, and quite possibly the same paramilitaries who had actually committed the massacre, the father of one of those who had been mutilated said to me,
que Colombia era como el río grande de la Magdalena, que el pueblo colombiano era como el río más importante que atraviesa todo nuestro país.
He told me that the Colombian people are like the River Magdalena, which is the biggest river which crosses all the way across our country.
Que en las noches su caudal bajaba, pero que al otro día amanecía incontenible.
That during the nights its flow lessens, but in the morning it always rises up again to an unstoppable level.
Ese día entendí qué significa la resistencia.
That was the day that I understood what resistance really means.
Ese día entendí que si nos unimos y nos juntamos podemos transformar esto.
That was the day that I understood that if we come together and unite, we can transform this.
Ese día entendí el significado de la solidaridad y de la necesidad que existe de que cada uno de nosotros aportemos a la humanidad y aportemos a la transformación nuestra y del mundo, porque no pueden ser más unos pocos que el pueblo y que los pueblos juntos, unidos.
And that was the day that I understood what solidarity really means. I understood the need for all of us to come together around humanity and together to transform this world, because the peoples of this world, we are more and we can win.
Como dicen los futbolistas a propósito del Newcastle, la pelota está en la cancha de ustedes. No podemos seguir callando.
As footballers say, following the football theme, the ball is in your half. We can't continue like this. We need action.